Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tina. I'm the Capability Building Coordinator for Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Connecting Up is a not-for-profit organisation. Our purpose is to help fellow not-for-profits leverage the digital world to positively impact their communities. The digital world is expanding beyond IT, software, hardware, and digital marketing to new innovative service delivery and measuring social impact. Connecting Up believes that not-for-profits with the right tools and skills can and do achieve great things for their communities. We have a long history of affordable software, hardware, educational events, and group consulting. We partner with over 40 organisations to deliver high-quality products and services specifically meeting the unique needs of the not-for-profit sector. I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar, Meeting the Efficiency Challenges in the NDIS, which will be presented by Josh Goodwin and Rod Payne from CUSP. We'll start with a bit of housekeeping. All lines are muted, so if you have any technical issues, please type it into the questions box on your webinar panel and I'll be able to assist you through there. If you have any questions during the session, please also type it into the questions box and Josh and Rod will answer them in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Please note that your comments and questions will not appear to the entire group. If you are on a Wi-Fi connection and have multiple programs open, this can sometimes affect the quality of the audio and video of the webinar. If possible, please close all other programs to help you have the best experience. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and a link to the recording and slides will be sent to you within 2 business days after the webinar ends. Before we start, I'd also like to remind you that there will be a short survey at the end of the webinar. We'd appreciate it if you took a few minutes to provide us with some feedback. That's all from me for now. I'll pass it over to Josh and Rod to get things started. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, hi everyone. Josh Goodwin here. Thanks for that intro, Tina. And look, thank you for covering part of my next bit. I was going to talk to some of you about what Connecting Up does, but you probably did a better job. So thanks, Tina. So today I'm going to talk about CUSP and what it is that we do. I'm going to talk about who we are, who we're here to serve, and why we're doing what we're doing. And I'll go into quite a bit of detail in regards to our systems and how we may be able to assist some of you who may be looking at transitioning to a much more proficient technology platform as you look to transition to the NDIS. So who are we? We were created out of a consultancy between forethought. Rod Payne, who's here today in the presentation with me, has a lot of experience in regards to not-for-profit consultancy, IT implementations. He has a very strong history within IBM as the complex systems management resource, very au fait with organisational change and business processes, and does a lot of work with business process as a service. Personally, my own history, I've come from Connecting Up. I've been a lot of my role was actually brokering the discounts and donations that you see on the Connecting Up website. So I'm very au fait with what Connecting Up does and how they impact the sector. And the other side of things that I'd like to talk about is we have so SMEs, you might think of small to medium enterprises. We mean SMEs when you're looking at this slide in terms of subject matter experts. The team that we have real sector experience. So these are individuals who've worked within the sector for quite some time. They've had experience with the administration side of their business, and they've also had hands-on experience with dealing with face-to-face customer interactions as well. So I know that you're in very good hands when you are when you're dealing with CUSP, because everybody in our team and our staff procurement policy makes sure that we are looking for not just experts, but people who have a real human-centered approach. But I'll talk about that in a little more detail shortly. So business process as a service is what we provide. So we are built on a software as a service platform. As you can see at the bottom layer here, we wanted to make sure that we were running a software as a service. We didn't want this to be an on-premise solution. We needed it to be scalable. We needed it to sit within the cloud. We have two underpinning applications that we use in Pendula and, in Lumery, which some of you may or may not know has just rebranded from Enright Care to Lumery, and Schedulo, which is our mobile workforce application. And we also use a couple of other plug-in apps to deliver a very holistic service in the cloud. Now, sitting over and above that is the process as a service. So this is where we start to look at the business processes and the services of which we offer. So what you'll be able to see on the orange part there are the services that we actually will look to provide, and we do look to provide the staffing that sits behind this. So we're not just a technology platform, we actually have the human resources that are capable and able to do the roles here. So we're looking at right from when you first take an inquiry from an initial new client, through to intake, then through to the scheduling or the mobile workforce, and then right the way through to service delivery, then reporting, and the accounts receivable process at the back end. So we are looking to provide a holistic service for your back office, and we have gone into quite a bit of detail in regards to how we've gone about selecting the solution itself. Now, this slide that you're looking at here might look a little bit dated, but for the purposes of this talk, I really wanted to highlight the reasons for why we're doing what we're doing. So, as you can see in here, the NDIS is requiring that all organisations that operate in the under the NDIS have a corporate overhead of 15%. Now, in the organisations that we've been talking to, and through a lot of dealings that we've had with National Disability Services, the lowest we've actually found is 22%. Organisations are trying to deal with this in different ways, but we've had quite a bit of success in reducing the corporate overheads of our clients thus far, and that is solely what we're designed to do. So just so you're aware, if you as an organisation are looking to not just survive but flourish in an NDIS environment, that corporate overhead figure is extremely important. That needs to be as low as possible, and that's what we're designed to do. So if a lot of your services are billed out at some of the lower rates within the NDIS payment schedules, it becomes even more important that your overheads are as low as they can be. And that's where we see the efficiencies that we can provide for you. So here is a quote from one of our existing clients. This is basically one of the concerns that they had of CUSP as we implemented our solution was the cultural impact. As you can see here, and as you've probably all experienced, there is overwhelming complexity within the NDIS. And I just wanted to make you all aware that working with us has really benefited them, because they've been able to redistribute a lot of their resources and a lot of the work that they do back into core service provision to really serve the communities that they serve. So I'll go into a little bit more detail later in the talk today, but Skylight Mental Health is, let's say, our foundation client, and they were previously known as the Mental Illness Fellowship of South Australia, and they're a very progressive organisation, and they have really grasped the mettle in working with us. And I'll go into a little bit more detail as we go on about the benefits that we've provided. But I just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of one of the key differentiating factors that we feel we provide. We will handhold you through a transition. I want to make it clear that a lot of the software vendors that you've probably had experience with, their commercial models lend themselves to the licensing pricing. And we have an absolute vested interest in making sure your transition onto the systems that we use is right, because if we don't get that transition right, then we're going to have a problem delivering the services that we promised to deliver. So I just wanted to make that really clear up front. So now I'm going to run you through a little bit of the work that we did, or in-depth work that we did in regards to choosing the technology that underpins the CUSP solution. As you can see here, we've gone into a really big deep dive on functionality. So we've surveyed 137 service providers. We mapped all of their usage, their needs, the platforms they're using, and from this we then built out what we considered were the functional and non-functional requirements of the system. So as you can see at the bottom here in the slide, we looked at all of the technology that was currently underpinning the services that these not-for-profits were using to deliver their services. CRM, scheduling, rostering, HR, award interpretation, payroll, and finance. And you can see some of the results. You may be able to validate some of your systems already by seeing this next slide here. So as you can see here, this is a very good reflection of the current technology that underpins the organisations that we surveyed. If any of you would like to see some of the detailed analysis we went into, we're also open to share that with you as well. So please do contact either myself or Rod, and we're more than happy to share some of the research that we've gone through to come up with this. But you can see here Salesforce, which is the CRM that underpins the Lumery platform. It's a very, very highly used and recommended platform. You can also see here MYOB and Xero. Then when you get into some of the bigger organizations, some of them are using Oracle, SAP, NetSuite, and then you can also see some of the care management platforms, which would be, let's say, your standalone type CRM solutions that have been designed for the space in which we're operating. You can see CareLink, Suitability. So really what this allowed us to do was develop our criteria on which we then based our decisions to choose Lumery and Schedulo, which we definitely consider are best of breed in what they do. So we needed to make sure that they had functional coverage. So really they needed to underpin the support that we were going to provide in all of the back office areas that we do. They needed to be cost effective. They already needed to be used within the sector. We wanted to make sure that we're supporting a sector and what they're using already rather than going out and redeveloping this from scratch. And we invested in organisations that are going to invest in their own development. So you can see here, we've done a lot of research and a lot of work with Enright. Now Lumery, if I keep doing that, just remember that Lumery and Enright are the same thing, so I apologise in advance. So all of the organisations, the partners that we have, our technology partners, they are prepared and continue to invest in the development of their solution, so it's extremely important. So what services do we offer? We offer a whole suite of back office services. So we'll actually offer the staff to provide the inquiry and intake services from the initial inquiry. We'll then move on to the creation and management of service agreements. We can assist in the mobile workforce management and scheduling and rostering. We also provide the NDIS accounts receivable aspect, and that includes the bulk uploading into the NDIS portal and managing all of the rejections and ensuring that they get processed correctly. And then reporting, standard and tailored reporting, ICT vendor management, and we also provide a lot of triage support for those workers with app-related issues. And I suppose, again, moving into one of the advantages that we really provide, if you do outsource your back office to CUSP, you're now really outsourcing this to an organisation that is managing vendors on your behalf. So vendor management is a big issue. And obviously compliance, all of our business processes that we implement, the business processes model the compliance that's needed under the NDIS. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So moving into the inquiry and intake process, you can see here a picture on the right-hand side that probably doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense. This is one of the business process maps that we will co-create with you as an organisation. These business process maps are created and informed by the customers that we serve, so we consider them to be best of breed of the organisations that are using these processes. So right from the word go, we will monitor all of the new and existing customer channels. So we'll manage a phone queue and email queue if there is one. we capture not just sufficient information, but we capture the information that is needed for you to run as a business. So all of the information that we will capture will be informed by your business rules. And this is a conversation that we'll have with you. If you choose to go with CUSP, we will administer all of your back office according to your business rules, but we'll also inform new business rules as we see fit. So the initial qualification of customers, you can see that we'll take in all of the details. Again, these are dictated by your business rules, but we'll look at NDIA, funding sources, family relationships, key contact people, third-party medical contacts. And so some of you may not have or may have ad hoc or not systematized processes for inquiry and intake. That's another real advantage of what we can provide. So you'll see that this information is recorded in a standardized way, and it's put into the system by our staff and then moved into the intake and then scheduling processes. So in terms of the real life benefits of what you can, what you might see if CUSP took over your inquiry and intake processes, we use the GP's reception as the analogy. So one of the things that we are very careful not to do is tread on any therapeutic aspect of the services that you deliver. You are the experts in your field, and we will never pretend to be. We are the ones that cover the administrative side of your services. So we will never look to determine a treatment or sign a contract. And the bulk of the contact that we have are those simple transactions that don't need a high level of engagement or a therapeutic access. So examples that you'd be looking at are rescheduling appointments, checking on the statuses of funding applications, creating new service bookings under certain line items, and entering details into the system. So as per the business map the process map on the previous page, we'll have processes for simple inquiries and complex inquiries. And these again are dictated by your business rules. So you might decide that if a customer calls with a certain issue that needs a therapeutic aspect, then that would be handed back to the organisation to deal with in the way that they deal with before that then feeds back into the process, and it would more than likely then become a simple inquiry. So what this allows you to do is reallocate those resources that you all hold very dear to you, that have great systems knowledge, but also an excellent human-centered approach to the people who you're serving. So really, it allows them to focus on a number of other key issues within your organization, but it also means that you've got a standardized way to track the history of the engagement right from the word go, and you can then objectively establish the commitments that have been made, and the consistency in which we can do it is not to be understated. So service agreement management. We will look to, so once you've taken on a new client, we'll actually allow you to manage, or we'll manage the service agreement process. So that includes creating the unique identifier, allocating to a support coordinator or a team leader where needed. We'll update that service agreement with the service description, goals, tasks, line items. We'll make sure that there's a timely registration and commencement of services, and we'll ensure that there's accurate mapping to NDIA service line items. So on top of the fact that we'll maintain all of these service line items over time that do change within the NDIS, which is an advantage that you get with us, there are a number of other benefits that we can provide. So just providing an example of one of our clients at this stage, the initial services introduction consult that used to be provided was never billed by this organisation. They would send staff out to people's residents to capture all of the information that was necessary manually. And then they would come back to the office to hand this information across to the service agreement creation team, who would then put the service agreement together, which would then need to be handed back to that individual, hopefully for a signature, so that they could then start up service delivery. Now, all of us would probably agree, not the perfect process, and it wouldn't be too hard to poke a hole in some of your processes that exist, but I just want to give you an example of how we've been able to change that for them. We have introduced a process whereby they're able to bill for that 2-hour appointment under an existing line item in their service agreement. The mobile devices that they're now holding mean with the applications that they have loaded on there, so they've got Lumery and they've got Schedulo on their handheld devices. This means that when they go out to people's houses now, they can take all of the information that they need in real time. They take handheld printers, and they can print out the service agreement right then and there and obtain a signature and get started on service delivery straight away. That's just one of the examples of how we can assist. This type of business process that is now being implemented is only one of a number of examples that we can come up with that show the real true life benefit of the business processes that we can deliver. So on top of that practical example that I've just talked about, you can see that service agreement line items now will be carefully mapped to NDIS service items. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to schedule a worker against a line item that doesn't exist, and then that would create even more problems when you try to invoice against an incorrect service line item. So this, again, is something that CUSP focuses on heavily to make sure that we reduce the error rates. We always update and map these as they change. So And we know that NDIS provides contracts that are heavily weighted towards the participant. So this means that consistency and accuracy of contracts is critical. So we always work with the service provider to limit the options to those that are approved by the service provider and permitted by the funding bodies. And then that makes sure that there are no real unintentional variations. So again, we also have, you can see that correctly structured service agreements are extremely important. Not just the fact that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. One of the things that we pride ourselves on as well is we have training manuals. We will provide face-to-face training. Let's say if you're anything like one of our clients, you are constantly bringing on cohorts of support workers, and we provide that training initially and then training resources so that we make sure that they're using the systems as they should be right from the start. So people who are using the scheduler applications on their phones know what they're doing right from the go. They know the process on how and when to use them, and therefore reducing error rates again. So I can't emphasize enough that one of the key risks that when you look at a transition is the rejection of the technology or not using the technology as efficiently or effectively as it should be. So this is where we take a strong focus on ensuring that users of the system are given the tools they need so that they can use the system. Some of the people that we know are brilliant at what they do in their roles, don't necessarily focus on the technology that is now needed to deliver these services, and that's where we see ourselves providing a big benefit. So moving on to scheduling. Mobile workforce management is a large aspect for many organisations who have support and community workers out in the field. We will actually handle all of the scheduling of your mobile workforces. So this means allocation of tasks or reallocation as needed, data input for timesheeting, work health and safety management and reporting. We actually monitor the check-ins and check-outs of appointments and have business processes that are about making sure that workers are safe when they're en route and inside their or when they're in someone's house. So if they haven't checked in within 15 minutes, we have processes that follow up these workers to make sure that they're safe, and when they haven't checked out, it's a phone call if they haven't responded to us within 15 minutes. So we make sure that staff safety is of an absolute priority. So in terms of staff accreditation, the system can manage that as well. So you'll actually see if someone's first aid certificate needs to be renewed, that will actually come up as a reminder, and you may not wish to schedule that person against the role until they've renewed their accreditation for that particular first aid certificate. Not just people, we can actually use, you can use our system for vehicles and equipment allocation as well, and sign out processes we can handle. Onboarding of new staff, I've already mentioned that in terms of the training that we can provide. Not only will we reallocate software licenses, we'll actually manage these licenses on your behalf. So when you do choose a system that's going to take you into the NDIS world, you will need to ensure that you have the appropriate licensing. Again, we'll manage that on your behalf. So we'll also support any of the provisions that you have internally for BYOD devices. And again, like I said, we'll provide the initial training and ongoing support in the use of those systems. So some of the real world benefits that you'll get from us handling your scheduling: it is a very intuitive system backed by effective training. And so this really gives people that real-time, immediate view of availability. Because it's online and in real time, there's phone backup for more difficult situations. We're capable of dealing with adjustments and last-minute changes. There's a lot of administrative time is reduced because we have standardized processes that fill appointments. You're not wasting your time, or key resources within your organization are no longer wasting time trying to fill these appointments. There's less administrative time, and there's a lot less errors in regards to the processes. Again, I can't emphasize enough, you're not dedicated, you're not here to provide administrative services, you're here to serve the communities you serve. We've dedicated ourselves to these administrative processes. So again, WHS compliance here, monitoring the check-ins and check-outs, not to be understated. A lot of organisations simply can't do what we're doing based on the time and effort and energy it takes to do this. One of the things we are working on right now as well, so obviously as with anything, we're always looking to improve our functionality, least cost routing, and we're working on automated claiming for travel. So any of you who try to claim and then reconcile travel will know that it's a little bit of a headache under the NDIS. We're looking at making sure that this is an automated process, and we're also looking at, in terms of the scheduling and rostering, we're making sure that our end goal is to make sure that you are choosing the most appropriate and cheapest resource for your organisation when you're going to schedule. So least cost routing and automated claiming for travel is going to be something that's going to be extremely important when you look at profitability. And again, completing case notes and verifying delivery of the service in real time and within the billable time frame. Again, this means that you're utilizing your staff in the best way possible. So it's not just the system that's going to help you to do that, it's the business processes that we bring with us. So accounts receivable, this is where obviously things can go wrong when you start to deal with these things in volume where the same error reappears. We're aware of a number of organisations that hire extra additional resources simply to handle these exceptions that are rejected through the NDIA portal. So we will handle the bulk upload of transactions into the NDIA portal. In terms of the remittance advice, again, we'll get that. We'll look to reconcile this, and we'll minimise and manage the exceptions. So we will handle the process. We're getting better at this with every day. In terms of managing the other revenue sources, we'll do that as well. So even though I've focused today on talking about the NDIS, our system can handle multiple funding arrangements. So whether you're bulk billed, self-managed, privately funded, it doesn't matter. Our system is able to deal with this. So, as I've just said, the NDIA approach to some of these plans is variable. Error exceptions, there's no standardized process. There are some seemingly inexplainable rejection reasons. Again, items can change without notice. Plans can be terminated and renewed without notice. And so this is a very time-consuming process that can take up a lot of administrative time of key resources within organisations. So having experience of these issues as they arise across the different service providers that we have, this is going to reduce the time it takes to investigate analyse and resolve these issues. And because we've got experienced people that are dealing with the people within the NDIS and we have the right tools, again, this is going to reduce the likelihood of system errors. So reporting. Standardised reports. My understanding is that Lumery has over 50 inbuilt reports. Just here you can see that these are some of the standardised reports that have been developed, and we continue to develop reports for our clients based on their KPIs they have on how to measure their own business success. So you can see here, jobs cancelled last month, participants without an active NDIS plan, service agreement status and balances, services delivered by worker last month. So utilisation, you'll actually see in a few slides time how the system will give you a graphic representation of utilisation, which again is a key statistic for those of you who are looking to transition to NDIS. It's about making sure that your billable staff are billing at the highest possible rate. So this reporting that's provided by the system and ourselves, very, very important. Again, jobs not accepted versus jobs completed. The scheduled activities for the previous month versus delivered activities the last month, we're really starting to be able to give organisations and providers operating under the NDIS a real picture and a timeline of their development through the NDIS. So you can see where any of the problem areas lie. You can also see where you've made some significant improvements. So needless to say, when you're reporting back to your boards, this is a very, very powerful engine. Salesforce itself, of which the Enright slash Lumery system is built on, is extremely powerful as a reporting engine. So the functionality here is huge. So rather than, and look, to tell you the truth, one of the key things that you'll get out of us providing standardized reporting for you is you're now reporting out of one source of truth. You're now not looking to filter results through disparate databases of differing formats and trying to get the results that you need. We can get to the point of touch button reports based on what it is that you require. So as I've said, Salesforce, very, very powerful. And you can see that they can, a lot of the information that you can pull out of the system can be built into the standard reports, which we can create on a monthly basis for you or quarterly, however you'd like to report. This is the frequency at which we can generate the reports. So, and again, obviously there's huge advantage in being able to touch a button to get you something that you might need that's timely, like a grant submission, an audit, or a presentation. And again, it can't be understated that learning a system takes time. So when you centralize your data to sit in one system, this negates the need and the risk involved in learning where data sits within your organization and how you can extract it. So again, you're reducing your time in not just training, but you're reducing your time in experimenting with all of the systems that you have because you're now moving to that one source of truth. So now I'm just going to take you for a bit of a high-level walkthrough of the system, and this is probably where I need to apologise because with the recent rebranding of Enright Care to Lumery, the interface has changed as well, but the core of what's inside these slides is still the same. So this slide is quite important because it does show you the different systems that support the processes that we will offer. So right through, on the left-hand side here, you can see right from the start, Lumery is where we enter all of the data. This is the, let's say, the case management platform that sits over the Salesforce or CRM. This is where your data is entered. So we will take the inquiries and the referral data. It moves into intake management, client management. At the point, then there's the service requests and the service agreement. Right at the time that the jobs are created, we move into the Schedulo app. And at this point, this is where we start to look at allocating the resources, making sure they're suitable in terms of tagging, but I'll get into that shortly. Scheduling those operations, and then you can see here the dotted white line is around the mobile application, which will be for your support workers who are out in the field. So this is where you will be able to see the data that's needed to complete the jobs. any tasks, attachments, forms. Once the job's completed, we then start to move into the real back office functions of the billing, invoicing, and reconciling and reporting from the back end. So this is all, and you can see it is color coded to show you the different systems that are being used. So the reporting is really a Salesforce function, and most of the inquiries through to the point where you'll create the job creation sits with Loomery, and then Schedulo is all about your mobile workforce management. Okay, so this is the somewhat recently dated interface that you'll see when you start to look at Loomery, but it has all of the key aspects that you will need. So you can see the service agreement name, it has the start and end date of the contracts. You can see what the size of the service agreement is, how much has already been delivered in terms of dollars and the remaining balance, and you can see the line items here. But this is just to give you an idea of the interface, and the new interface actually looks nicer than the one I'm showing you now. So here is where you can see one of your support workers and how you can attribute different characteristics and different qualifications. So you can see here that Ben has qualifications in physical therapy, epilepsy management, personal care. He's a qualified counsellor, he's male, working with children. Now these are all tags that you can use to search in the system. So if you're looking to match one of your clients with one of your support workers, you can use these tags to do so. So the system can cope with any number of tags. You can also whitelist and blacklist. So if there are participants who've had poor experiences with, or they choose for any number of cultural or religious reasons to look at certain support workers, that can be done as well. So you can manage by exception as well as inclusion. Here is a really good example of where Schedulo does its work. You can see here that all of the current resources that you have that are out in the field are geo-mapped, so you know where they are at any given point in time. You can see in the middle of this slide, okay, on this specific date at this particular time, there are 4 that are queued. There are 0 that are pending allocation, so all of the appointments have been allocated. Pending dispatch 3, dispatch 2, 1's ready to go. En route 0 and on site 0. So these are statistics that will give you an indication of where your workers are. You can see that they're listed by job at the bottom, and you can also see per worker how long their appointments are, when they are, and it also maps the travel time. And I'll show you this in one of the Schedulo mobile app screens shortly. Again, this is another this is another way to represent information. Just so you're aware, it doesn't need to look like this either. They are customizable depending on what it is that you consider is important to your organization. And again, I spoke previously about utilization being key. You can see here, average utilization of the staff that you're using, 61%. So we go back to the reason for why we're here. You need that up at 85%. Otherwise, under the NDIS pricing schedules, you're not as efficient as you need to be. So again, you can see, depending on how you categorize your work, you can see the type or the volume of services that you're providing as a breakdown of percentage or number of resources here in the left-hand corner. You can see, again, all of the volume of work is measured in terms of your resources that are needing to be allocated to jobs along the top. So again, this is about how you go to manage your mobile workforce, and the system is, again, customizable. So now we've moved to the Schedulo app, and this is what your mobile workforce will see. So when CUSP allocates a job, the mobile workers, you can see here, this is what they'll see on their Android or iPhone in this case, and it will provide quite a lot of detail. The response simply needs to be a yes or no, and that's a touch button response. So as soon as it's been accepted, you can see the screen next to this, whereby this individual has 2 appointments, and you can see that it also has the travel time. in between those appointments, which is extremely important. So the system ensures that travel time is taken into account when it's also scheduling. So you can see here that they've got all of the details that they currently need. And when they click on the job, you can see inside the third screen here on the right-hand side, you can see the details of that screen, including the type of service that's been provided as well. Pardon me. So once you start once you're with your customer, you'll press the In Progress button. So this is quite important in regards to use of the technology. So you want to make sure that this button is clicked at the time an appointment begins, because this then assists in the reconciling of the reporting and service delivered records at the back of the system, and then that obviously informs the uploads to the NDIS portal or the invoicing out the back of the system. So once that's done, you can see here that all of the details within the applications. One thing I do want to make clear is that a lot of you have allied health professionals whereby you would like to ensure that there is a level of privacy within the system. Different licensing levels for individuals within your organisation can be allocated both within Schedulo and Lumery. So what this means is if you've got important case notes that are being taken, you can make sure that that's privileged information as well. And so that's on any device, and it's also on desktops. Anytime you log in, you can ensure that any of this information is kept private to the people that are unable to see it. So, but this is again just an example of the interface that the worker will have, and again, very, very mobile, and you can do everything that you would be able to do sitting at your desktop, but you've got your handheld device. So I do want to talk a little bit about transition planning. So I've talked a lot about the system that underpins the services that we provide, but one of the things, so transitions can be extremely complex. As you can see here, we've gone into great detail to get this right, and we get it right the first time. Transitions can be very complex, and often they can fail or they don't always get implemented. Now, this isn't an option for CUSP as we see, because we're going to provide the services back to your organisation once we've transitioned you onto the Lumery platform. So before you do look to come onto CUSP as a solution, I do want to implore you to look at things in your organisation about whether or not your organisation is ready to change, whether or not you've got real change advocates in your organisation. This is a key thing. Your organisation needs to be ready to change. You don't want the technology being rejected because it's being forced on them. You want buy-in. Business process refinement. You need to be open to the idea of changing existing business processes that may have existed for quite some time. So the idea of maintaining the status quo is no longer an option. If you're going to transition, you're going to be looking to run on a more efficient system that's going to be more profitable so that you can stay in business a lot longer, helping those communities that you're serving. You really need to look at the data that you've currently got in your system versus the data that you would like to be in the new system. If you've got bulk funding arrangements that are no longer going to be relevant in your world, really think about whether or not it's worth migrating that data across to the new system. Role definition. So one of the things that CUSP provides is we free up resources within your organisation. So some of those resources that are possibly being used more on administrative processes rather than service delivery, you can now start to look at, okay, does this person, or can we put this person in a more billable role for my organisation? And I can't understate governance is such an important aspect of this. You need to have consistency throughout this whole process. You need to have staff investment. Ideally, and I'll go into detail in a little bit, ideally you need to have resources that'll be consistently oversighting this transition right from the word go, right from the time that CUSP then starts to deliver these administrative services. We need that continuity, and again, training. Training is an extremely important aspect of this, and again, I've spoken about the detail that CUSP goes to ensure that all system users, both internally, and you as our customers or partner organisations need to be trained effectively to ensure that the systems are taken up as well. So our process. The first thing that we'll do is we'll make sure, and I'll be blatantly honest, not every organisation out there is going to suit the business processes or the CUSP solution. The technology we absolutely stand by, but we have deliberately built our system and to ensure that we are building as many efficiencies as we can for as many organisations as we can. But there will be some organisations that that don't necessarily suit the CUSP model, which is why we start with this check of suitability. So we will work with you to look at your existing business processes. We'll look to see whether or not you have any, let's say, higher order functions like specialist rostering or multiple funding agreements or other levels of complexity that might sit outside your typical NDIS environment. And then we'd look to see whether or not these business processes can move into the systems that we offer. So we're yet to find an organisation that we've dealt with that hasn't seen the benefit in what we do. So some of them have found it a financial barrier. Some have found this the perfect solution. So this is the reason for why we do want to work with you. Again, it's about outcomes for your business. So even if we do decide that CUSP isn't necessarily the perfect solution for you, we can absolutely help you with potentially some of this transition work and also suggesting some of the technology that you could or should be using to assist in your transition. So this is why it's extremely important to check that our services is going to suit what it is that you're doing. So this example here actually comes from one of our clients. One of the things that was mapped, you can see here, we always look to measure the increase in staffing needed. And I talked about a lot of transitions being under-scoped. This is where it can happen. If you're looking at a business as usual mentality here, it's not going to be the case. Just think about all of the bulk funding arrangements that you may have now and the individuals that sit within those. If they transitioned across to NDIS clients, you're potentially reporting to the individual. So this organisation that was almost 100% bulk funded, they only needed to report 4 times a year. Now they're reporting, or what they see as what they're going to report, is 26,000 times a year. So just think of the administrative increase that would represent for your organisation. And we look at all of this throughout the process. So we measure what resources you might need to bring on in the intake process. Contract management. Do you have key resource risk here? Do you have individuals within your organisation who, if they disappeared for a period of time, would break some of the processes within your organisation? We make sure that we look at all of the processes. So NDIA accounts receivable, scheduling aspect. We always look to measure the increase in staffing needed and agree upon this before we then go into the next part of our solution. We go through all of your reporting needs. Again, this is an example of another display that can be configured, but you can see here how powerful the system is in regards to measuring business performance. So on the left-hand side here, you're actually looking at actual targets that have been set by a client. You can see average revenue per paid hour, targets 25, they're sitting at 13. Very, very easy graphical example of what it is they need to do to improve. You can see here average revenue per paid hour by job type, and then it goes into even more detail. So again, you again can configure these, but the reporting needs are extremely important. And in terms of the Salesforce reporting side of things, it would be very, very difficult to find another reporting engine that could go to the level of detail that Salesforce does for the solution that we have. So we also look at your strategy and growth plans. So we want to make sure that you're looking to grow. If you are looking to commit to a strategy that involves heavy involvement in the NDIS, that would lend itself very much much towards this model. One of the things that our system can do is it will scale up and scale down with you, but I'll move into that in a moment. Okay, so one of the things that we did with, let's say, our foundation client, there are 3 real major cost components. So the staff, you need to look at the staff that it currently takes you to provide your administrative processes, and then you need to look at whether or not, and what we did with Skylight is we took on 3 of their staff, and those 3 staff, we are providing these services here. So the inquiry and intake processing, the scheduling, the NDIS accounts receivable reporting, and the ICT vendor management. So we took on 3 staff. Through CUSP, you'll actually get a lot cheaper licenses than you otherwise would if you went direct to either one of Lumary or Schedulo. We've negotiated these prices basically because we provide such a streamlined service that we've reduced the costs of support for these vendors. So they're no longer having to provide a lot of support for their customers because that is now what we've taken on for them, which is one of the reasons for why we've been able to negotiate such good prices. In terms of the transition, again, I've talked about how that needs to be fully scoped, and there is an upfront cost to that transition. So if you are looking at a transition, you do need to have a long-term strategy in mind because there is an upfront cost. You'll need to pay for the software licenses separately to the CUSP service. So you'll be paying a subscription fee for however many licenses that you need, depending on your worker makeup. And you'll also need to make, and one of the things that I would like to make clear is that we have some very efficient business processes, and as we continually iterate those business processes, you get the advantages of the development of those. So I do want to make that clear. But the transition itself, there's an upfront cost, and you will see the benefits over time. So when you're looking to, and one of the services that we provide that I haven't actually got slides here is we'll provide you with any sort of material that you need to justify your business cases to your boards. Obviously, this is not a simple, just a simple off-the-shelf purchase. It's not just a software purchase. This is an holistic solution that could really hold your organization in good stead as you move into the future. So we will present to your board if you need us to, and we can provide you with a lot of supporting documentation that justifies a move across to our solution. So again, this is these are a few quotes from Adam Dunkley, who's GM of Business and Operations of one of our clients. I've already included this quote at the top previously, but I did want to make it clear, the bottom quote here, I'd be happy to take a call from any prospective customer for CUSP to share our experience. Absolutely. If any of you would like to speak to any existing customers of ours to talk about any of the potential issues that you're facing and how we may be able to address those through the CUSP solution, absolutely. If you'd like any more information at all, this is me. So look, I'd just like to thank you all for attending today, and I suppose open it up to any and all questions.
Thanks, Josh. We have a few questions. The first one is, how long does a transition typically take?
So transitions are not, they're somewhat variable in regards to what's your propensity for change. We've completed transitions inside of 3 months, but there can be levels of complexity that may take that out a little bit longer. So really, depending on the investment and your staff readiness to change, we can transition organisations in under 3 months, but I would allow, I'd use that as a benchmark, but it can be per organisation.
Yep. The next one is, do you provide timesheets?
Simple answer is yes. we provide the data that can inform the timesheeting. So if the data is in the system, then yes. So I'll give you an example of where timesheets might not be a reliable solution for you, or might not be a holistic solution for you. For all of the scheduled and service delivered records, you'll find that we would be able to provide that information and data. But let's say you bring 15 staff in for a training session internally that wasn't necessarily scheduled or routed through our system, we wouldn't be able to inform that aspect. But absolutely, the capability is there.
Okay. Does it interface into other accounting packages?
It does. Pardon me. So the Lumery have built APIs for the major accounting packages in Xero and MYOB. So, pardon me, this feeds information both ways. Pardon me.
Okay, there's a few more that have come through. Can we visit the team in South Australia?
Absolutely. So we are based in Wayville, and we'd be more than happy to come to you. So if at any stage that's something that you would like to do, we can do that.
Okay. Can you explain the difference between a simple query and a complex one?
Okay, so now you're talking about the business processes that we referred to earlier. So a good example might be where a customer might call up and there is absolutely a therapeutic aspect to what they will need to deal with. So if this is the case, so if it's not a simple query that we can answer that's relating to the administrative process, we would then hand it back to either a team leader or the appropriate resource within the existing organisation to deal with that therapeutic aspect before it then might re-enter as a simple inquiry.
Okay. What is the first step from here?
So if you're interested, you can contact me on my details here on the current slide. More than likely, I would come out to visit you and I would conduct an information session with key members of your team to go through your existing processes with a view to mapping out what a solution might look like from us, and then you would probably receive a proposal from myself.
Okay, great. So we've had two other questions that have come through from Brooke and Michael. Rod, I'm not sure if you wanted to answer those now or answer it offline.
Oh, cool. I just was on mute. Thanks very much. Hey, thanks, Brooke. Just on the data integrity issues, so Brooke was asking about NDIA continue to change the agreements, and that might cause a lot of risk of communications issues between CUSP and the organisation involved. And we agree completely. We've had a lot of that happening with the service providers where the support coordinator might be involved, the participant or the carers might be advised of the change, but the service providers aren't. One of the things that's been really helpful for us working with a number of customers is we get to see that repeat sort of problem, that and other problems, pretty effectively and pretty early. So what we've been doing is either putting in place communications process asking that the service provider, the carer and support coordinator advise us if there is unexpected changes. But also we've figured out a process for picking up on that effectively and early in the piece and going back to the NDIA to see if that's the issue, if the plan has actually changed unexpectedly. But it is an area of concern, and it is an area of a lot of communications process to make sure that it's coming through. Our advantage, I guess, is that we can identify it early and quickly, and we've really got an eye on that at the moment. The other one that came through just from Michael, thank you for that. To give you a sense in terms of the pricing for small organisations, we can probably give you an indication that's more about other organisations we've dealt with, just because it's dangerous for us to be talking about a specific environment, not knowing if they've got, quite the right fit. As Josh says, it's all about the business processes and making sure it's a good fit. The smallest organisation we've worked with would have 2 or 3 sort of back office staff. They might have they might have 20 or 30 people out providing support. The reason that we're talking about it being that sort of size is that there is a cost of the transition and a cost of the licenses that's pretty much a sunk cost, irrespective of the size of the organisation. So if it's a very small organisation, we might find that we're not a great fit. As Josh said, what we will do though is give you some advice on other good solutions that we've seen out in the market as a part of the process of sort of testing to see if this is a good fit or not. So I know that's a bit of a roundabout answer, but it's difficult for us to be explicit about pricing until we're clear about that. Just to give you a couple of sort of data points, the transition cost is probably going to be $20,000 and upwards. That's probably the sort of starting position on it. And then there's some software licenses and obviously the support costs on an ongoing basis. The other one from, oh, cool.
Yeah, there's another one from Brooke that just came through that I've just sent through to you.
Okay. How do you manage in-house clinical staff providing therapy supports such as physio? So as long as it can be treated as a resource, or the individual support provider can be treated as a resource, the system can deal with that. So we do group sessions, for example, for other clients, so they'll come into a central resource. So as long as we can, break up the day and provide a location as to where the service is provided, then the system doesn't really differentiate about clinical staff and other types of staff. It's really just looking at the location, the appointment, the time frame for the appointment and the charging rates associated with that. So I hope that makes sense. It doesn't really differentiate, but it can certainly deal with those.
Great, thanks, Rod. Was there anything that either Josh or Rod wanted to add before I conclude the webinar?
No, I'm all good. Thank you for attending today.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Josh and Rod, for presenting today, and thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you've all learnt a lot from this presentation and that all of your questions have been answered. If you do have any questions that come to mind later or any feedback about the webinar, please send that through to events@connectingup.org and we'll answer those questions offline. You can also contact Josh or Rod directly via the information on your screen. Don't forget that the recording will be available within 2 business days and a link will be sent to you, so keep an eye out on your inbox. Again, thank you for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.